Have you ever noticed how some people panic the moment you stop explaining yourself? When you go quiet, when you simply disappear? It's not love, it's not concern, it's because your silence threatens something deeper, their need for control. As long as you're explaining, defending, reacting, you're still playing their game. But the moment you withdraw, the rules change, and those who needed your chaos to feel in charge begin to unravel. This isn't about being cold, it's about reclaiming your energy. And in this video, we're going to explore how silence, distance, and conscious unavailability can become the most powerful forms of inner freedom. A lesson rooted in the timeless insights of Carl Jung, and lived daily by those who have chosen peace over people-pleasing. If you're in the middle of reclaiming your energy, setting boundaries, and choosing yourself, you're exactly where you need to be. Stay with me till the end, because this might just be the turning point you didn't know you needed. If you're choosing peace over people-pleasing, you're not alone. Hit subscribe, drop a like, and let's walk this path together. Now, let's begin. In a world where emotional energy is constantly pulled in different directions, it becomes crucial to take a step back and ask yourself, are you truly in control of your emotional life? Or are others unknowingly, or perhaps knowingly, draining you of your psychic energy? This video will explore how emotional manipulation works, and more importantly, how you can protect yourself from it. We begin by acknowledging something we often ignore: emotional availability. You may think that being emotionally available is a virtue, that it makes you kind, caring, or compassionate. But in many cases, it can also make you vulnerable to manipulation. When you're always there for others, without setting healthy boundaries, you risk losing your own identity. The more you give, the more others take. And when you're constantly giving, there's little left for you. This dynamic forms the basis of emotional manipulation. Manipulators feed off your emotional energy, draining it without remorse. They might not even be fully aware of the harm they cause. And yet, every emotional exchange leaves a part of you less whole. But this isn't just about others, it's about your own choices. Recognizing emotional manipulation is the first step in regaining control of your energy. Now, let's dive deeper into the concept of psychic energy. You may not always see it, but emotional energy is just as real as physical energy. And just like physical energy, it needs to be protected. Think of it as a currency. You spend it, and it gets spent fast, especially when there's no awareness. Emotional manipulators want to control your energy, and they do this by triggering your emotions, making you react, and then feeding off your responses. But you don't have to be a passive participant in this exchange. You can take back control by setting boundaries. Boundaries are like invisible walls around your emotional energy. They help protect you from others who want to access your energy without permission. And they start with you, recognizing when your energy is being drained, and choosing not to engage. Silence can be one of the most powerful tools in your arsenal, especially when you begin to understand that your energy is sacred, and it's up to you how you invest it. You've been conditioned, since childhood, to always be available for others. You've been taught that your worth is tied to your accessibility, that if you're not there when someone needs you, you're failing them. But here's the harsh truth: this excessive availability, this constant need to be present for others, is not a virtue. It's a prison. And the more you live in this state of availability, the more you lose touch with yourself. You think you're being good, being kind, being selfless, but in reality, you're just draining your own energy, giving it away to people who don't deserve it. Every time you answer that text immediately, respond to a message even when you're exhausted, or drop everything to please someone, you're giving away a part of your energy. And what's left at the end of the day? Fatigue, frustration, an emptiness that you can't explain. But let me tell you why. Because you've been too available to people who don't deserve even a second of your silence. You're feeding into their needs, their demands, their expectations. But what are you really getting in return? Nothing, just more emotional debt. Being always available makes you predictable. People start using you as an emotional emergency button. When they need validation, relief, or comfort, they press it. But when you stop answering on command, when you stop being that person who's always there, suddenly, things change. The game breaks. And those who thought they knew you, those who thought they could control you with your reactions, realize they know nothing about you. When you choose to stop reacting immediately, when you choose silence instead of constant explanation, you gain something powerful. You become a mystery. People are no longer sure of what you'll do next. And that uncertainty, that unpredictability, shifts the balance of power. You stop being a tool for others. You stop being someone's emotional rag, always there to wipe up their mess. You may think that being always available is the key to being loved, to being needed, to being valued. But it isn't. It's the exact opposite. You're giving away your power. When you're available all the time, there's nothing left of you. Your presence becomes so abundant that it loses its value. No one respects what is always within reach. No one values what is always there. And the more you try to please, the more you wear yourself thin, the more you give, the less anyone appreciates you. So, stop and think, who truly deserves your time? Who deserves your energy? Your attention? Your presence? More importantly, who deserves your absence? It's time to stop giving yourself to people who aren't worthy of your silence. It's time to stop being the emotional rag that others can use, discard, and pick up again whenever they want. Start protecting your energy. Start valuing your silence. This isn't about turning your back on the world or becoming cold. It's about learning to say no, setting boundaries, and understanding that your energy is precious. When you choose silence, when you choose not to react, you're not withdrawing out of cowardice or fear. You're choosing your own peace, your own integrity, your own sovereignty. It's time to stop being the person who is always there to fill the void for others. The person who is always predictable, always at someone else's beck and call. It's time to become someone who knows when to speak, when to act, and when to remain silent. And in that silence, you will find the power to truly be yourself. You'll stop being manipulated by the needs of others and start living for yourself. The silence you offer isn't absence. It's an amplified presence. It's a choice. And that choice will change everything. Silence is power. But it's a power that intimidates others. Those who thrive on control, who want to dictate your every move, fear silence more than anything. Why? Because silence is unpredictable. Silence isn't something they can manipulate or use to fuel their needs. When you stop reacting, when you stop giving them what they expect, they lose their grip on you. And that is the most frightening thing to them. The moment you stop speaking, stop responding immediately, you become a force they can no longer predict. You're no longer just a piece in their game. Jung spoke about individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are. And what is at the heart of this process? The ability to listen to your inner voice, to understand your own needs, your own desires, your own essence. And how can you do that if you're constantly responding to others, constantly giving them your attention, your energy, your time? You can't. You'll be forever chasing someone else's narrative, forever seeking validation, forever distracted by the noise of the world. Silence, in this sense, is a tool of energy mastery. It's not just about not speaking. It's about choosing when to speak, when to act, and when to withdraw. It's about understanding that your energy is valuable and that you don't owe anyone an explanation for your choices. The more you cultivate this inner silence, the more you connect with your true self, the more you step into your own power. And this power isn't about dominating others. It's about mastering yourself. Think about it. How often do you react immediately to someone's demands? How often do you feel the pressure to speak, to explain yourself, to justify your actions? This is the cycle of external control. This is the trap that others set for you. But when you choose silence, when you choose not to give in to that pressure, you break free from it. You take control of your energy and your life. The cost of silence is real. When you change the dynamics in your relationships, when you stop being the person who always reacts, who always answers, people won't understand. They'll be confused. They might even get angry. They'll think you're distant, aloof, or cold. But this reaction isn't your responsibility. Their reaction is their problem, not yours. The truth is, when you choose silence, when you choose not to engage in their emotional dramas, you're teaching them something. You're showing them that you won't be controlled. You're showing them that you respect yourself enough to protect your energy. And yes, you will be misunderstood. People will accuse you of being distant or selfish. But this is part of the price you pay for sovereignty. Not everyone will respect your boundaries, and that's okay. You're not here to please everyone. You're here to protect your peace, to protect your energy, and to build your inner strength. Silence is the ultimate act of self-respect. When you speak less, when you withdraw from the noise, you show the world that your time, your energy, and your attention are valuable. You stop being a source of validation for others, and instead, you become a source of power within yourself. The more you embrace silence, the more you'll realize that speaking less is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of maturity. It's a sign that you've learned to master your energy, to choose your battles wisely. The world may try to convince you that you need to be constantly available, constantly speaking, constantly reacting. But true strength lies in silence. And in that silence, you'll find your true self. Being consciously unavailable is not avoidance. It's discipline. It's the quiet decision to no longer hand over your energy to anything that doesn't nourish you. When you choose not to respond, not to chase, not to over-explain, you are not being passive. You are protecting something sacred, your emotional clarity. Most people spend their entire lives reacting to texts, to moods, to manipulations. But when you start protecting your peace, when you stop being so reachable, so reactive, you become untouchable. This isn't about being cold, it's about choosing wisely. Do you reply instantly to everyone? Do you explain yourself every time you say no? Do you allow your emotional state to be pulled around by guilt, shame, or obligation? That's not compassion, that's self-betrayal. The small acts matter. Choosing not to answer that message right away. Choosing to take space instead of explaining your silence. These choices build your sovereignty. They declare, without a word, that your peace comes first. Jung knew that individuation requires distance. Not isolation from the world, but from the noise. You need space to hear your own voice. You need clarity to understand what belongs to you and what's just been handed to you by others. When you become emotionally disciplined, when you stop bleeding energy into every situation, you don't shrink, you expand. You stop asking for permission to exist, and you start living from your own center. You stop proving yourself, and you start protecting yourself. And you don't owe anyone an explanation. Not for your silence, not for your space, not for your peace. You do not need to make people comfortable with your boundaries, because boundaries are not walls to keep others out. They are gates to keep your energy pure. The people who are meant to be in your life will understand that. The rest will fall away, and that's how it's meant to be. Sometimes silence leads you into isolation, but not all isolation is equal. There's depressive isolation, where you run from life. And then there's sacred isolation, where you return to yourself. This isn't about cutting everyone off. It's about cutting off the noise that's been drowning your soul. Jung called this the necessary path inward. Not to become less, but to become whole. To reconstruct who you are outside of the roles, the expectations, the emotional debris. You rebuild in the dark. You remember what matters when there's no one else in the room. You hear your real voice when the world goes quiet. This sacred isolation is not loneliness, it's self-initiation. It's the place where the masks fall off and the truth shows up. You see what you tolerated, what you feared, and what you gave away without knowing. And from that clarity, You begin again, not as someone seeking approval, but as someone choosing truth. You're not withdrawing from life. You're withdrawing from the illusions that kept you asleep. This is how you return to life, not to the chaos, but to the center, your center. And from that center, everything changes. You don't chase anymore. You attract. You don't react. You choose. You don't explain. You embody. The world will call you distant. Let them, because what they call distant is really you finally being close to yourself. This silence, this sacred isolation, it leads somewhere. It leads to rebirth, not the dramatic kind, not the kind with fireworks and fanfare, but the quiet kind, the kind that happens when you realize you no longer need the noise. You no longer need validation. You no longer chase closure from the people who broke you. You've given that to yourself. And now, there's peace, not because everything's perfect, but because you are whole within yourself. You've sat with your pain. You've faced your shadows. You've stopped running. And in that stillness, you found something rare, your own strength. Not the loud kind, the rooted kind, the kind that doesn't need to shout, the kind that doesn't need attention. You become calm, but not passive, quiet, but not small. You walk differently. You speak less, but your presence says more. Because you're not here to prove anymore. You're here to live. This is the essence of Stoicism, of individuation, of spiritual maturity. It's not about suppressing emotion. It's about directing it. It's not about avoiding the world. It's about choosing how you move through it. And now, you move from strength. You don't respond out of fear. You respond out of choice. And that makes all the difference. You're not just surviving anymore. You're becoming who you were always meant to be, before the world told you who to be. You've learned the most powerful truth of all. You are enough. Without their approval, without their attention, without their praise. You are enough when you're silent. You are enough when you're misunderstood. You are enough when you walk away. Because being whole within yourself, that's the real success. That's the real power. Not how many follow you, but how fully you follow your truth. So now, the choice is yours. Will you return to the noise? Or will you stay in your center? Will you chase again? Or will you sit still, knowing that anything meant for you will never require you to abandon yourself? This is your path now, not one of reaction, but of reflection, not one of control, but of alignment. Let them wonder where you went. Let them question your silence. You don't owe them a map. You don't owe them access. You owe yourself freedom. Remember, choosing yourself is not selfish. It's sacred. Choosing peace over performance is not weakness. It's wisdom. And being unavailable to chaos is not avoidance. It's evolution. There's nothing more powerful than a person who has made peace with their solitude. Nothing more magnetic than someone who no longer needs to be seen to feel real. You are that person now. Not because you fought for it, but because you let go. Let go of the noise. Let go of the roles. Let go of the constant explaining. You are not here to carry other people's projections. You are here to embody your truth. Let that be your legacy. Not how loud you were, but how clear. Not how many people liked you, but how deeply you honored yourself. This is the real work. This is the transformation. From noise to stillness. From craving to calm. From fragments to wholeness. And if you take one thing from all of this, let it be this: silence is not empty. It's full of answers. Listen.
You don't become emotionally unavailable overnight. It happens in stages, subtle shifts, quiet decisions. Not to close your heart, but to protect your energy. You stop over-explaining. You stop texting first. You stop reaching where there's no reach back. And people say, you've changed. But what they mean is, you stop giving me the version of you I could take for granted. This isn't bitterness. This is clarity. You realize not everyone deserves access to your emotions. Not everyone is safe for your softness. So you build boundaries, not as walls, but as gates. You don't slam them shut. You just learn to close them quietly when respect isn't returned. You start saying less, giving less, not out of spite, but because your peace has become more valuable than their validation. You become consciously unavailable. Not cold, not heartless, just selective, just wise. You see where your energy leaks, and you patch those holes. You see where your love was wasted, and you reclaim it. You stop chasing potential. You stop arguing for your worth. And most of all, you stop betraying yourself just to keep a connection alive. Because you now know, any bond that costs you your peace is too expensive. They won't understand at first. People are used to your access, used to your availability, used to you showing up, even when they didn't. But now you've changed the pattern. You've stopped dancing in dynamics that drained you. You've stopped being the emotional caretaker for people who never checked on you. That's not cruelty. That's self-respect. That's power.
And here's the truth. You don't owe anyone an explanation. Not for your silence. Not for your space. Not for the new boundaries they didn't expect. You are allowed to evolve. Allowed to heal. Allowed to walk away from what no longer aligns. Some people will say you're distant. Let them. Your job is not to manage their perception. Your job is to honor your growth. You don't have to yell about it. You don't have to announce it. You just shift. Quietly, subtly, firmly. That's the power of conscious unavailability. It's not reactive. It's not defensive. It's intentional. It's grounded. It's knowing that you are not here to overfunction in relationships that undernourish you. That your energy is sacred. And if they can't meet you in emotional maturity, they don't get to meet you at all. You stop performing. You stop pleasing. You stop making yourself small just to keep someone else comfortable. And what's left is you. The real you. The calm you. The clear you. The version of you who no longer needs to explain why they don't answer every message, why they don't show up to every drama, why they walk away without slamming the door. That version of you is powerful. That version of you is free. And freedom doesn't always look like happiness. Sometimes it looks like solitude. Sometimes it looks like being misunderstood. But it always feels like truth. And the moment you taste that, you never go back. There's a kind of isolation that breaks you, and there's a kind that builds you. Most people fear being alone because they've only experienced the first kind, the depressive kind, the one that comes with abandonment, confusion, loss. But Jung spoke of a sacred kind of isolation, a conscious pulling away, a chosen solitude, not to escape the world, but to return to yourself. You begin to see this isolation not as punishment, but as preparation. You're not withdrawing because you're weak. You're retreating because you're recalibrating. The noise of the world made you forget your own voice. The expectations of others made you forget your own values. So now, you go quiet, not to disappear, but to reappear, this time from your center. And yes, it's uncomfortable. The silence gets loud. The stillness feels foreign. You miss the distractions, even the toxic ones, because they were familiar. But slowly, you begin to hear yourself again. Your real thoughts, your real feelings, unfiltered, uninfluenced. And that's when you start to rebuild, not from wounds, not from roles, but from truth. This sacred isolation is not a life sentence. It's a rebirth chamber, a cocoon. You don't rush it. You don't numb it. You sit with it. You breathe through it. You let the layers fall off, the masks, the personas, the performative versions of you. What's left isn't flashy. It's not curated, but it's real. And real is rare. People will call you distant. They'll say you've changed. They'll ask why you're quieter now, why you don't show up the same. And you won't have an easy answer, because how do you explain that you're no longer willing to perform for approval? That you're done twisting yourself to fit into places that don't value your soul? So you say less, not because you have nothing to say, but because you no longer need to convince anyone of your worth. You no longer need to be seen to feel seen. You've turned inward. You've met yourself. And that meeting changed everything. This isn't a retreat from life. It's a return to it, with new eyes, new standards, new peace. You no longer chase validation because you've validated yourself. You no longer fear solitude because you've befriended your own presence. You no longer seek to be chosen because you have chosen you. This kind of isolation is sacred because it's honest. It strips away illusions. It ends performance. And when you finally re-emerge, you carry a quiet power. The power of someone who knows who they are, and no longer needs the world to agree. That's the power people feel when you walk into a room and say nothing, but everything shifts. Not because you spoke, but because you listened to yourself first. And now, you move different. From silence to solitude, and eventually to strength. This is the process. This is the rebirth. And no one can walk it for you. You have to step into the void, into that quiet space where all your noise, your anxieties, your insecurities, your cravings for approval, no longer matter. In that stillness, you begin to forge your own presence, one that isn't dependent on anyone else's acceptance. This is not about becoming detached from the world. It's about being fully present in it, not with distractions or imbalances, but with grounded clarity. The world won't change overnight, but you will. And as you change, so does how you engage with it. No longer are you ruled by external forces, chasing emotions, reactions, or approval. You become a center of calm, anchored in your truth. This process can be brutal at first. You'll experience what feels like a loss of connection. You'll be misunderstood. People will wonder where the version of you they knew went. And you'll have to explain that you are still here, but you've shed the layers that no longer fit. You've let go of the parts that were only held together by others' expectations. The growth you experience through silence is often invisible. No one can see the strength that grows quietly within you, as you learn to stand on your own 2 feet, unshaken by the noise around you. But you'll feel it, you'll know it, and that knowing will be enough. You may start speaking less, but what you say will have far more weight. You may retreat from the chaos, but you will become a beacon of peace. Because this is the power of self-mastery, the ability to be in the world, without the world controlling you. The ability to navigate your emotions, your energy, your reactions. You will no longer feel obligated to give pieces of yourself away just to be accepted. This is the way of the true sovereign, the one who chooses their path and doesn't bend to the will of others. They stand firm in their values, even when the world pushes against them. And this doesn't mean you become cold or distant. It means you become fully aware of what you give and what you keep. You protect your energy because you understand its value. To be whole within yourself is a gift. To know your worth without needing constant affirmation, without the incessant chatter of external validation, that is the strength that silence builds. It's a quiet strength, but a strength that can move mountains. And when you choose yourself, when you stop chasing emotional crumbs from others, you finally stop settling. You begin to create relationships that reflect your inner peace. No longer are you drawing from a place of emptiness, but from a place of fullness. And that fullness, your energy, your love, your truth, is the foundation on which your real life is built. As you move forward on this path, you will discover something deeply profound. The more you embrace your silence, the more you understand the power that comes from being in control of your own energy. Silence becomes your ally, not just in moments of reflection, but as a tool for emotional sovereignty. It isn't just the absence of sound, it's the presence of strength within you. A strength that doesn't need to prove itself, because it's rooted in something far deeper. When you embrace this solitude, you step out of the endless cycles of external validation. You don't look to others to fill the void. Instead, you become whole in yourself. And in that space, you realize the truth. You were never broken, only disconnected from your own power. Silence lets you reconnect with that power. And the more you practice it, the more you'll find your energy flowing in ways you didn't expect. You'll start to see that every action, every thought, every choice you make is infused with a clarity and intention that you never had before. The world may try to drag you back into its chaos, its noise, its drama, but you will know the cost of engaging with it. You will know that peace, once found, is worth protecting. And so, you'll choose carefully where you spend your energy. You'll stop giving it away so easily. And that shift, so subtle, yet so powerful, will make all the difference. The more you choose yourself, the more you find that your external world starts shifting as well. It's not that the world changes to suit you, but rather that you stop letting the world dictate your reality. You stop reacting to everything, and instead, you become the one who chooses your response. This is freedom. Freedom from the noise. Freedom from the constant tug of emotional manipulation. Freedom to simply be. But this doesn't mean retreating from life. It's not about shutting the door and hiding away in a cave. It's about standing strong in the world, yet never letting it consume you. This is the real art of emotional mastery, knowing when to engage and when to remain silent. Knowing when to speak your truth and when to hold your peace. And in that holding, in that careful choice of silence, you build something incredible: sovereignty. Sovereignty is not just the ability to stand tall. It's the ability to stand firm, without needing to be constantly propped up by others. It's the confidence that comes from knowing you are enough, just as you are. And that, true peace, true strength, is the foundation on which you can build a life that reflects your deepest values. Now, let's talk about the deeper layers of this journey. As you begin to master silence and emotional sovereignty, you start to realize something even more profound. Silence isn't just about avoiding noise. It's about creating space for your true self to emerge. And in this space, you begin to listen more deeply to your inner voice, the voice of your intuition, your essence, your soul. Jung spoke about the importance of individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are, not who the world expects you to be. And the key to individuation is listening. Listening to the deeper parts of yourself that are often drowned out by the demands of society, the clamor of other people's opinions, and the constant distractions of daily life. Silence is the tool that allows you to hear those quiet, subtle whispers that guide you back to your authentic self. But this process isn't always comfortable. As you begin to listen more closely, you may uncover truths about yourself that you weren't ready to face. You might discover parts of yourself that you've been hiding, even from yourself. And that can feel like a shock to the system. But this discomfort is essential to growth. It's a sign that you're moving out of the shadows and into the light. And as you embrace these parts of yourself, you become more whole, more integrated, more aligned with your true essence. This is where the real transformation happens. You start to shed the layers of conditioning, the expectations that have been placed upon you. You stop playing the roles that others want you to play, and you begin to write your own script. This is the power of individuation, the ability to live authentically, to show up in the world as your true self, without fear or hesitation. But remember, this doesn't mean you stop engaging with the world. You are still part of it, still interacting with others, still fulfilling your responsibilities. What changes is your relationship to it. You no longer seek validation from external sources. Instead, you look inward for guidance, strength, and clarity. You no longer need to prove your worth because you already know it. You've found your own center, and it's from this center that you live and act. And in this process, something incredible happens. You begin to attract people and situations that align with your true self. You no longer waste energy trying to fit in or be something you're not. You attract those who appreciate you for who you truly are. And in turn, you create deeper, more meaningful connections with others, connections built on mutual respect, understanding, and authenticity. And there you have it, how silence can become your greatest tool for emotional sovereignty and self-discovery. Remember, true strength isn't about being loud or always engaging with the noise around you. It's about having the power to sit in silence, reflect, and listen to the wisdom within. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Stoic Legacy for more content on how to live a life rooted in Stoicism, emotional mastery, and true self-awareness. Drop your thoughts or experiences with silence in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay true to yourself and embrace the power of